I met somebody today. Reminded me of you. I think maybe you were with me today. Baby. Maybe you were with me. Yeah, baby, maybe I'm gonna keep going, huh? One batch. Two batch, penny and dime. Papa Bear's a baker. So am I. One batch, two batch, penny and dime. Yeah. I love you, baby girl. Till the end of time.
Hey, Powers, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And we are back. Just for this episode of the podcast, we're going to do something that was a one-off, and we thought it would be a long one-off, but it was like a
little shorter than we thought. Yeah.
We said we'd
Marvel
be back.
special presentation is what it came on as, I guess.
Yeah,
not a spotlight, not a searchlight, not a whatever, not a focus. It was a special presentation. Is what they said.
Yeah, of the Punisher One Last Kill. And spoiler full, but I'm pretty sure a lot of everybody had seen this. I didn't realize it was popping on when I did. I came home from work. I just popped on Disney Plus, and I'm like, oh, it's on. It's already there. It was last Tuesday or something. And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess I'm watching it. And I did. And I was like, and then before I knew it, I was like, wait, that was it?
Yeah. It was way shorter. I remember when I watched it the first time, I was kind of like, okay, that was. I mean, I liked it. It was great. Don't get me wrong. And then watching it today for the second time, I was still caught up with how short it was, and I really had expected it to be longer. But I mean, it's still good, and it's still a lot happened.
Yeah.
So it was good.
It was meant to bridge the gap, I believe, from Frank's past. Obviously, the Frank Castle we knew from Netflix, The Punisher, as we started this whole podcast venture almost 10 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
When that came out.
It's been a while. Yeah. Well, and I read somewhere, I saw some meme or something where they think this takes place, and I have this in my notes to talk about, but we can talk about it now. That this takes place actually before Daredevil Born Again season 2, even though they released it after.
Yeah.
That the time frame of it, because we don't really, there's no AVTF in it. There's no Kingpin. I mean, it all takes place there in Little Italy. So, which we didn't hear a lot about in the Daredevil series. So I'm not sure when this is supposed to have taken place, But like I said, I saw one thing that said maybe it was before Daredevil. I read a quick article somebody had posted about, why other superheroes weren't involved in Daredevil Born Again season 2, and in particular why Spider-Man wasn't involved. And maybe we'll find out in Brand New Day what Spider-Man was doing when all this is going on in New York, because he is supposed to be a New York based street level, and Spider-Man's supposed to be street level now, especially with everybody after the events of No Way Home. So him and Frank not being in this Daredevil TV show is kind of an interesting, I'm sure it had something to do with rights and stuff, but like this article pointed out that, the Kingpin is just as much a Spider-Man villain as he is a Daredevil villain. In fact, he's more of a Spider-Man villain usually in the comic books. So, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
As far as I can remember, we've never had Kingpin though and Spider-Man interacting in the MCU. So
very much, we don't see him on shows. We only get him in the films when Sony allows it for Marvel to take over with the rights.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we didn't have Spider-Man wasn't involved in Echo. He wasn't involved in Hawkeye. And these were shows that had Kingpin in them.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting to see what season 3 of Daredevil Born Again does and what Brand New Day
brings out too. But because we do see in the, obviously spoilers, but you've seen the commercial and the promo trailer for it. We do see Frank Castle in there. We do see Mark Ruffalo
that he's in,
as the Hulk. So we're getting more MCU into a Sony Spider-Man movie now that is mixed with Marvel. It still has the Marvel tag, but now we're starting to see that. And then on top of that, that little, I kind of mentioned it once before, we do see the Hand, which is a Daredevil kind of villain or villainy company. And that's, and there's speculation too at one scene where you see Spider-Man going through the air and then the hand coming up from the buildings, reaching.
I only watched the trailer once because I didn't want to get spoiled on too many things, and I don't want to spoil people on stuff that we don't know from a trailer. So you know, it's tough because trailers show you so much that you,
and then they hide stuff too within the trailer too.
Exactly, and just like you remember for No Way Home, you know, I can't remember, was it New Rockstars or who was it that pointed out that in the trailer, you know, they CGI'd out the extra Spider-Man.
Yes,
you know, that were actually in the movie, and so now we can't even trust that the trailer, that what we're seeing in the trailer is accurately an accurate depiction of the movie anymore. So
that trailer scene was not in the movie entirely at all, like they did with Rogue One, the Star Wars story. That was funny too, because I'm like, wait a minute, there was this whole thing with the TIE fighter. It never happened.
You know, so we're starting to get to this point where we can't trust trailers, and we've got to be real careful. But we're not talking about Spider-Man in this podcast.
No, we got another month and a half to 2 months to go with that. All right, so with that, let's move into the synopsis.
As Frank Castle searches for meaning beyond revenge, he's unexpectedly pulled back into the fight.
That he is, and the one thing about with Frank though, at this, we see him, he's at his wit's end. Basically, he's losing his mind. If I could find my notes, but they basically have him talking to himself. He's in a moment, he's drinking himself terribly, and oh my god, there's a couple of scenes in here and it's a lot of needle drops in this episode too that we could bring up. First of all, when we do first see him, we get Mother by Danzig playing, almost similar to where in the very original Netflix series they utilized another heavy metal band. They used Metallica's One, but they didn't use the overall original song, but in this case they used this. But it kind of winds down as he's going into even more darkness, and he's drinking himself, he's hurting himself, he's ripping apart the apartment that he's in, because everything that he was laying out like a police board with cork and string, he took out everything. That he did his job, but he has nothing more to give or to do. So he's questioning his own existence at this point. And literally the story, if you think about it, is like his recovery from that to find purpose again.
Yeah, I mean, we hear at the very beginning that he's wiped out the entire, Ganucci family, who were the ones who, apparently killed his family, and he's finally got all of them except he didn't get Ma, which, and correct me if I'm wrong, but she even gets away at the end of this. So she's still out there. She and her driver, they drive away in the limo before, because she made this big deal about I'm going to watch you die and all this, and then she gets into the limo and drives away before even before it finishes, the fight finishes. So that was a little strange to me, but I understand they wanted to give us some closure for like one chapter of his life ending, and so now he's starting a new chapter, I guess. But it just that was a little bit of a when I watched it the second time, because when I was started to watch it the second time, I was like, I don't remember if he kills her or not, and I couldn't remember until the end of the movie or the show, when she gets in the limo and drives away. I was like, oh, okay, so she just gets away. I'm like, okay, so she's just still out there, and he's still out, now back to doing his Punisher things, So,
but this whole story, or this version, or this special, was literally getting Frank back to Frank. Even with the last season of Daredevil Born Again, we did get to see Frank at a certain point, and Karen talking to him, and he didn't want to deal with any of that anymore. That's why we were always questioning in this past season 2, will we see Frank come back? Will we see Frank? And we never did. We never saw him come back. But this was probably the purpose or the reason why we have this is to bring Frank back, because now we have, as we said before, Spider-Man Brand New Day. He's going to be prevalent in it. How did he get from where he was, where he's got a full beard, rattied out hair? In this case, he was like acting almost like a bum.
Yeah, he's hiding. He's hiding in his apartment. The mom, when he comes out, and the mom and the little girl or the little boy are there. She makes the comment, "Oh, he does come out of his apartment," because apparently they had never seen him come out of the apartment before. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I really did appreciate at the end the fact that you do see that he's got the Punisher shirt back on.
Yep.
His hair is cut. His beard is still trimmed there, but it's trimmed. It's definitely trimmed to where he's not the madman kind of crazy guy that he was that we've been seeing prior to this, and even in Daredevil, we saw him acting kind of manic. And I'm still confused about the whole Karen Page vision because
the scene.
Yeah, the scene when he sees her, because then he says, "Are you really here?" And she says, "Yes," and she hugs him, but then she disappears. And I'm like, okay,
yes,
so
it was a vision of, I think what Karen represented it at that point is hope for him, for somebody who believes in him and somebody who cares for him. But in the very beginning, those words, her being spiteful towards him and that's his characterization of himself still affecting in his brain. Why she says, "Well, you went to war and you were away from your family, then you came back. You
That's
hung it up for a while."
Is that part of it? Yeah, that part of it is definitely not her. That's not Karen Page.
No.
She wouldn't say those things to him,
No.
But then she, like I said, so I don't think she was ever. I think you're right. I think she thinks she was ever actually there.
No.
It's just she transitions though from this accusing vision to this more comforting vision, trying to give him hope. So I think that's what we're supposed to see there, is just like at the very end, when the little girl gives him the flower, and he goes to his daughter's grave and is like, "Oh, I remember, she reminded me of you, and I felt like you were with me the whole time." So I thought that was great. I don't want to miss something that I remember the first time watching it. I thought I was just totally dumbfounded. They killed the dog.
Oh yeah, it's like a John Wick thing for me there.
It was very disturbing.
It was
what that guy does, and I kept waiting through the whole show. They got to come back to that. They got to pay that off. They got to do something
at the very end. They do,
and then at the very end, they come back to it, and we get to see Frank being Frank again, and he gets some retribution for the dog, and gets the old guy his hat. Yeah, gets the guy his cover back, gets his hat back. So, which obviously the guy was a former Marine as well as like Frank is. So, yeah. I didn't want us to go too far before we forgot to mention that it was very disturbing that they did that at the beginning, and I'm really glad they circled back to it at the end. But it still is a little, some of these shows are a little rough on animals. So this was a brutal and bloody episode. I mean, really, it was. There was quite a bit when he's stabbing that one tattooed guy. At the end, he's just stabbing him over and over and over again. I was just like, oh my goodness.
That was very in your face right there. And those were like, definitely, that wasn't CG at one point. One thing that wasn't truly CG is when they do drop it. I did like the fact that there were drops of hints of situations. Like, I'm gonna say her name's Victoria Nucci, I guess. They
just call her Ma, and even in IMDb, I didn't happen to catch the credits at the end, but in IMDb, she's only credited as Ma. So I don't know if she has a first name or not.
Yeah, I just call her. Then we call her Ma Nucci. The way she just talks about describing when she first approaches Frank. Now, mind you, this is all been filmed all outside of Astoria, Queens, everybody, or in Queens itself for the most part. They did a few shots in Brooklyn and everything. There's a few things in my notes. But she goes down how her husband, Benny, was killed, her two sons, and then the youngest, who was her prince. And literally, she was there at the time. We do see Frank's Punisher logo on the vest underneath the leather jacket as he's killing, but you don't see Frank's face.
Yeah.
She was there, and it was 6:47 p.m. that her son had died. And she utilizes that to enforce this, to get all thugs, killers, and whoever to go after Frank and drop his address so they know exactly where he is at that time to attack him, and his bounty is open for everybody to kill him. So, and it literally, she tried to explain to him, well, I'm lonely like you. I have nothing anymore. Basically, I'm going to take it away from my revenge on you. So that's literally the point of the story, is like, this is why Frank's in trouble. This is why he comes back. But there was the one scene when everything erupts, and I love how they utilize the kid's screams as a call out to him to come to, especially his memories of his own kids, Frank Jr., his daughter, and his wife. But mostly the like the little boy, and it says daddy at the very end, and the gasoline is coming in from across the hall into his room, and they light it. That's really Johnny Bernthal getting lit on fire. That he did that stunt himself, I found out.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So,
I do have one question about that whole scene, because we see him fighting quite a bit, and his pants are still on fire.
Yes.
While he's fighting, but then all of a sudden they're out. All of a sudden they're no longer like, I'm just, and I remember watching it and kind of backing up going, did we see anything? What, how did his, like, I understand we needed for the story, you couldn't have him running around with his pants being on fire the whole time, but it was a little bit like when it just stopped, I'm just like, and then there's like no damage to his pants at all. The rest of the,
it's not burnt off or anything.
Stuff, I'm like, come on, that was a little bit that I had to put on my suspenders of disbelief there, going, okay, if you're that much on fire, it doesn't just go out, and
unless it's leather pants.
Yeah, I mean, maybe leather. Yeah, but still, it was just like, I was just like, come on. So yeah, that was the only thing that kind of for a minute took me out of it, as being podcasters, that we have to, when we really zone in on certain things. That fight in the hotel, or in the apartment complex, was very reminiscent of like The Raid, or like Dread, the Carl Urban Dread, those kind of movies where they're kind of in an enclosed space, and they have these fighting, he's fighting in the hallways and stuff, and he's jumping off balconies and stuff. So yeah, that was that whole scene from the moment when it starts is just totally just a bunch of fight setups, and I can't imagine how long that took to film, but it was great. You could definitely tell there was a lot of practical stuff going on.
Oh yeah, definitely a lot of practical. I really did enjoy because you talk about the scene of it. That is a project within like Queens, very similar to what I've been to. It kind of reminded me of Park Hill in Staten Island, where I've been. A lot of my friends lived there at one point. And I could literally smell the urine and the smell of a project compound or building, and how amazing, like mazeful, like it's a maze inside, going up and down the stairs and in the different sections. Because if you look at it, everybody, the way it is, it's right by the water. So I loved how they used the backdrop of New York and the look of like interior wise for that. But the way it started off, and that's literally how it starts off in the very beginning. He goes through his issues, and he's being taunted by Kurt and his brain, all the other Marines that he knew within that time. He winds up persecuting himself for doing what he did, and feels like he's a Marine that hasn't done his job, because he already completed his mission, but he is left with nothing, and he's lonely, and he sees no point. He's at that breaking point.
Yeah, well, that's what they show us. They show us at the beginning when he's walking the streets, and there's all this stuff, this violence happening around him, and it just blurs out to where he's oblivious to it.
Yep.
And he doesn't even care. He doesn't even care that what's going on around him, and that's why it was great. This was a good, like you said at the beginning, this was him getting back to being the Punisher again, being Frank. Getting away. Finally, like we talked about, like he got his haircut, got his beard trimmed. He's got the Punisher shirt back on. So it was this is a great transition to take us to whatever the next step of the Punisher is going to be. I don't know what we're going to see in Spider-Man, what we're going to see moving forward with
Mm.
him. But it was definitely that seeing that transition, and Jon Bernthal played it really well. He didn't have a lot of lines. There was a lot of grunting and a lot of yelling.
Yes.
I thought that the second time I watched it that he didn't have a lot of lines in
A
this.
lot of
I mean,
emoting. Yeah.
you know, yeah, he did. He a lot of checking his weapons, which I thought was great because we see him
On the
lock his
rooftop.
weapons. Well, but he locks his weapons up, and so every time as he's going through killing these guys, he's
taking
grabbing
them.
their weapons. And one of the
Yeah.
first things he does, every weapon he checks to see, okay, how much ammo is left in that
Yep.
in that magazine, how much is here, how much is there. I'm picking up, he's picking up these different. He picks up the grenade and throws it and pushes the. He destroyed that woman's apartment. I don't know how.
The pipe
I don't know
bomb.
how.
Yeah.
I don't know how that neighborhood got cleaned up as quickly as it did, or it seemed to be quickly as it did. But man, that neighborhood was
Messed
bad,
up.
so they had to bring in what's that company, Michael Keaton's company,
Damage
cleans
control.
up damage control. It cleans up the streets, after the superhero fights. But no, then that whole thing was just like I said, it was a great fight scene, seeing him using all the different weapons, and then of course at the end we see that he does retrieve the key. He does go retrieve his weapons from wherever he locked them. He locked them up at. So.
Yeah, and what I really found really cool is that not only was he trying to protect himself, he was protecting the other people as he was jumping from balcony to balcony, going from one thug to the thug. He was like from across the way shooting people long distance to stop from like these thugs. They're just outrightly
because they weren't
attacking everybody.
They weren't just coming. They weren't just coming after Frank. They were because they didn't know. All they knew was the apartment building. They didn't know what apartment he's in, so they're banging on doors and hurting a lot of people, not just Frank. It would be one thing if they were all just going after Frank, but no, they were going after just the regular general people. It reminded me very much of if you were around in the 90s with the LA riots and stuff that happened.
Yeah.
To where people are running around the streets with carrying whatever they could steal from places. And you see that in the background.
Yeah, the looting. Yeah, the guy was running off with a TV. But even Ma Nucci at the very beginning, when she said that this was going to drop at 6:47, saying they will do anything when whoever's in their way, they will create chaos in order to get to you to kill you. And it's just like literally that's what had happened. So, you would think this would be in Kingpin's territory to the point.
That's what I said. I think, this must be, like I said, that's why I was trying to figure out the timing of it. And maybe this is, it is just one borough, right? It's not
Queens.
It's Queens, but it's like the Little Italy section of Queens.
Yes, it's their made up version because Little Sicily is not in Queens. Everybody.
Queens. Okay. Well, I don't know New York. You know New York better than I do.
They say the special takes place in the fictional Little Sicily district, but the production relied on authentic New York City grit to ground Frank's story. But but it was filmed mostly in Queens anyway. The little information on this: the restaurant the Nucci's had was a repurposed old movie theater in the area. To look like the restaurant. So they got a little update on that. They probably got some money because filming in New York is very expensive, and to rent out stuff they usually fix whatever they take down or repurpose for filming.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy the backdrop of New York and everything else. Like his falling down 3 stories from point to level. Like he first lands on the air conditioner, then he falls on the scaffolding on the side, and then then they were going to drop somebody else, so somebody was ready to fall on him. He had to roll over, and then he bounces off the bus, and she's watching.
And she's watching the whole thing. Yeah, it's just again, it's a little confusing about her character. I don't know if they're going to bring her back or not, but it was a little confusing because she makes such a big deal about wanting to see him die, and then in the middle of it, she's like, "Okay, let's go."
Well, I don't know if that was like, okay, let's go. I'm probably going to be in the line of fire if that were the case. Who knows?
I mean, her bodyguard is getting her out, had to get her out of there. So maybe that's part of it, is they were started to get worried that maybe something would happen to her. I don't know. It just seemed a little strange that she would make this big deal about wanting to see him die, and then she just leaves. It didn't it wasn't something that would have occurred to me the first time watching it. And if I probably wasn't podcasting on it, it probably wouldn't be anything that I'd make a big deal out of. But it's because we focus in on these things and we look at them because we're taking them apart. And that's a little bit of a confusing moment of why does she just up and leave? You know? So, but yeah, no, I thought it was really good. Trying to see if there's anything else. Oh, at the beginning, Frank is reciting the Marine recon oath. That is a real thing. I looked it up on the internet. That is a real thing. It's a lot longer. The actual, I guess what they say is a whole lot longer than what he was reciting. But they do have, if you go to the recon, the first recon battalion or whatever is Marine recon battalion website, they actually have it on there and show what, I'm recon, I'm Marine recon. This is my job and that kind of thing. So that was kind of cool.
My father would recite it sometimes when we were working together at the family business. So just to like in the morning as we're driving, I was like,
right.
Well, you say it out loud so I could hear you, because he was a Marine. So I was like,
okay. Yeah, and that's like, I've got a friend who's thinking about going into the Marines, and I was just like, well, more power to you, man.
Watch out for that slide for life.
Yeah, I am. Hey, I'm a veteran. I'm an Air Force veteran, but those Marines are a different breed, man.
Yeah, they are.
But let's see what else. There was I didn't watch it all the way through the credits the second time, but there was a suicide prevention PSA.
Yes.
At the end, I thought was very well done. I'm glad they put that in there because that reminder, because we see that moment when Frank is in the cemetery and he's thinking about killing himself, and he sees the vision of his daughter, and then stops. So I was glad to see they put that in there.
Those are like really good points, and I like this. It was kind of redemption arc and motivational. So we're starting to see Frank more of the hero, not the anti-hero at this point.
Well, I mean, he still murdered that guy at the end. So, I mean, he throws the knife, I love it. That's the only quote that I have is from the black guy at the end that goes, "Yo, devil dog, that covers mine." I thought that was just a great reminder of who he was and who he is. And that fact that in the military, we call hats covers, I thought was a good little moment there. But yeah, Frank, I just was so glad to see that come around. I know I mentioned it before, but the whole time watching it the first time, I'm going, they got to come back to that, right? They got to bring this guy back. We got to see what happens.
Yeah. It's always like, it's one of those things where it's like foreshadowing, like the bodega, Charlie at the bodega and his daughter, Charlie. I mean, Andre and Charlie was the daughter with the flower.
Yeah.
You knew all that was going to come back, but we didn't see the crazy guy in the very beginning come back in any way. I thought he would be back for something. And then also the homeless man with the dog and that and everything, like you said. There's always some things that turn around. I'm glad that we did get, like I said before, Kurt back in here. So it's another established character that we knew before that was in his face along with Karen. We do get visions of an older Punisher walking past him as he's getting these visions too, when he's walking back from the bodega back to.
Oh, I missed that. So I didn't catch that vision.
So he kind of passes himself. And it was kind of one of those look of like, oh, that's what I used to be. And that was an interesting little scene right there.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't catch that. I'll have to see if I can watch it again and try to catch that moment. So
yeah, there was so many things and surprises. Obviously, we mentioned before the violence in it, very in the tactical version of what was going on. Jon Bernthal is very much works with a lot of military people, and he's active with support for the military too. And I'm sure he got a lot of good tips and a lot of good training from those people, because he was taking it hard all the time throughout the episode or the show. The knife usage was amazing, but so very vicious. Yeah, that's it. I have for the the show when I thought, because we pretty much ran through it. It was only 50 minutes long, or barely 50 minutes long.
Yeah, it was very short. It was really, and really the most, all the action takes place. I didn't check the exact time. All the action takes place in about 20 minutes. That last 20 minutes of the episode, so there's a lot of character building. We see a lot of Jon Bernthal's face acting. Did a really, really good job, I felt, of representing that. And so yeah, I'm happy with it. It was a good show.
Yeah. A couple of other needle drops that were going on. Some of the music in there was pretty heavy metal, but it was actually written specifically for the scenes, which is pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't recognize it, and I was looking it up, but this is not. This was manufactured for it. It's not AI based.
Okay.
Everybody, it was actual musicians. So
Nice.
that's a cool thing. We got Louis Armstrong at one point with Lavia and Rose playing as Frank is burning and running or breaking into the door, breaking down the door so he could take care of what was going on. Then it comes back up again when he hears the screams from Charlie, Andre's daughter from the bodega, and then he hears his own daughter's scream, Daddy, as well. And he turns around and a Hate Breeds, I Will Be Heard starts playing, and that's when the violence erupts within a bodega, with him just using a handgun and getting to that point where he's using a knife, and the typical fighting scene action that you normally would expect. I was surprised they utilized Hatebreed, because Hatebreed's a Connecticut-based hardcore band, whereas if they used my friends in Rage, Jeff Altieri and Marco Altieri, they're a hardcore band that's known within a New York City based area. And Rage, I would be hoping that they would have used some sort of song that they've had, but beggars can't be choosers. I would love to hear it, because it would be great representation of New York at that point.
Yeah.
But that's it for the needle drops. Other notes. So I already mentioned where it was sort of filmed. So basically, it takes place in the borough of Queens, as we mentioned before. Production focused heavily on Richmond Hill neighborhood and block areas near or around Astoria, Queens. Very familiar with those locations. I did recognize some of the streets and some of the bodegas, and because those are actual streets, they would have to block them off like they normally did doing filming. So they constructed temporary elaborate sets, including faux subway stations on the 117th Street between Myrtle Avenue and Hillside Avenue. So that was something to be looked at. They used Brooklyn, so additional scenes were also filmed around locations like Greenwood Cemetery. So that cemetery scene was done within Brooklyn itself. And that's about it. That's all the little tidbits I got regarding
Good
that.
job. Yeah.
Other than that, that's about it for my notes and anything. The only thing I have is quotes. I love how Manucci turns around after she's ready to leave and go with the driver, and before she gives him the finger, says, "I'm the one who's doing the punishing now."
Yeah,
Frank.
that was a good line.
And then there would be Frank, and that's him at the very end. One batch, two batch, penny and dime. Papa Bear's a baker, and so am I. And I believe that came from the book that his daughter wanted him to read to her, from my understanding.
Yep.
So
that's what it looked like to me. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting to call back, because he was reaching out again, but also stating to his own daughter, I'm doing this. I'm doing it the right way now. So that's a cool thing. But that's about it. I did enjoy the episode. A lot of people are giving it great ratings. I think it's IMDb is 7.5 out of 10, and Rotten Tomatoes, it really got like a 94% on everything, even on Google and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Good. Yeah.
That's about it. That's all I have.
That's all I have.
All right, cool. Right now, podcast recommendations. Do you have any, or is
at the moment, like I said, we talked about earlier before we started recording that I sporadically listen to Inside of You from Michael Rosenbaum. He interviewed Kristen Ritter recently and did a great interview there, and he always does good interviews on the Inside of You podcast with Michael Rosenbaum. So
Awesome. Things to look forward to. I wouldn't say podcast recommendations, but things that we are working on. Steve and I will be back. We also noticed that this came out, but also coming out within the same week was Good Omens. It's kind of like a follow-up. It's probably just like with The Punisher. It's a special edition. I haven't looked into it, but I'm told it's pretty much almost like a movie, and it kind of wraps things up for Good Omens. So we're gonna come back, give a little time, and then we'll do that, and then we'll go from there. After that, we'll do The Boys, just to give you an idea of what's going on. Anything else that's going on the network right now? Well, I already released all the other stuff that I had mentioned before, like with the Adrenaline Cinema podcast. What's on tonight with Becky and Mandy is still going. They're still doing interviews still based on that. We are going to be coming back with Adrenaline Cinema with the Fancast when Vampire Lestat Interview with the Vampire is back on AMC Plus. So look forward to that within the next month and a half, I believe. But Lara and Billy have actually did an episode themselves just to promo it. So look out for that. We'll let you guys know. It'll be posted when it does come out. I usually try to be on top of that. But that's about it. Where can listeners hear us?
Well, I send voicemails to various other podcasts. And of course, you can always hear me right here on Panels to Pixels podcast.
Yep. I can be heard here, as always, on Panels to Pixels podcast, as well as Kaiju Cast podcast. That's another one that I didn't mention before. Rob and I are going to actually do a follow-up of an overall thought on season 2 of Monarch. So look out for that as well. Adrenaline Cinema podcast. And sometimes whenever I'm invited on everybody else's podcast in the network or even on Podcastica. But how are people able to get in contact with us, Steve?
As always, you can check out all the other podcasts on piratecoreentertainment.com. There you'll find links for all of the podcasts, including this one, Panels to Pixels podcast, and the ones that Mark just mentioned. And all the other media that we have available is right there at the network. If you feel the need to reach out to us, go ahead. There's many ways. There's links on there to the various podcasts, and then there's other ways to get a hold of us as well.
Yep. As always, we can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever podcast player of choice. Ratings and reviews are always available, so if you could please do that, be greatly appreciated. It's not like we haven't had reviews done on this particular podcast, but we like them, and we like hearing what people have to think about them. You could always email us, panelspixels1@gmail.com, panels2 spelled out T-O, pixels, and the number 1@gmail. Write out your thoughts, and then we'll talk about them the next time we're on and recording. Or you could just record yourself, and then, we'll play that thought on the actual, podcast, and we could give our thoughts on your thoughts.
We can be found on Facebook at facebook.com/panels2pixels. Also, we have a YouTube page, which is Panels 2 Pixels Podcast. Go there. You can hit the little bell, give us a thumbs up, be notified when those YouTube videos come out as well.
And what's on Facebook is always on Instagram, so keep that in mind, everybody. I will get notified if you send anything. So, with that, the next episode, we will be covering probably Good Omens, everybody. They call it season 3, but I think it's a special edition. So, check it out, let us know, give us your thoughts, and then hopefully we'll have some stuff ready to talk about next time when we come back. And after that, like I said, we'll be doing season 5 of The Boys. We'll start off with that when we do start off with that, episodes 1 and 2. So if you want to get ahead of the game, let us know. I've been slowly burning into it so I could look a little bit like I've been watching something, but that way when I do a second viewing for the podcast, I could actually be like, oh, I missed that. So I'm not spoiling myself, but at least I'll keep it to the 1 to 2 episodes per podcast.
There you go.
But that's about it. I just want to thank everyone for listening. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
Same podcast, different panel, different pixel. This was Panels to Pixels podcast, and we'll see you on the next panel. Good night, everybody.
Good night.